Hey there, it's Tom. I'm recording this to remind myself of how I'm multi-sampling stuff from VSTs from my computer and putting them on my Phantom with multiple velocity layers. It's a kind of complicated, probably unnecessary complicated process, but that's the only way that I found that this is working. So this is mainly for myself, so I remember this like in a couple of months when I need to do this again, but maybe it's helping somebody else. So here's the thing. I'm using MainStage for the auto sampling capabilities. I've got Keyscape here on the channel. I've got the auto sampler as the audio effects, and I've set the sampler to be to sample every 3 semitones. I'm setting, and I have to, you cannot really sample multiple velocity layers at the same time. I mean, you can, but it doesn't work then. I didn't find a way to import that then into the Phantom without being overly complicated and having to select every single wave file. That's not what we want. So I've already sampled the velocity 125. Now this is a E-piano from Keyscape. I've also already sampled it with 98. So let's sample the next one with, I don't know, 72. And everything else leave the same. I click sample, and then the thing does its thing to, you know, okay, now I need to, I forgot the velocity. What was it? What did I say? 172. I named this with keeping it short, the file name, so I'm recognizing it on the Phantom. Keeping the velocity here, and this is sampling in this EXS format, which is supposed to be a sort of a proprietary format from Apple. And now it's sampling every single note with the specified velocity, which was 72, if I remember correctly. And this will take some time. It tells you how long it will take, so about 6 minutes. So I'm gonna fast forward this. Stay tuned. Okay, now it's sampling the latest few notes there with this single velocity that I put in. And what this creates is an ESX file that contains all the samples with some meta information about how they are split up across the keyboard. But since I want to have several velocity layers, I'm gonna do that again. So I've already done that before we started recording 2 times. So this is the 3rd time now, and I'm gonna do it a 4th and last time with setting the velocity layer to, I don't know, something like that. 46 is fine with me. So I'm gonna start this whole sampling thing one last time. 46, creating the EXS file, and I see you on the other side. Okay, we're almost done with the 2nd velocity layer, which is actually the 4th, because again, I've been doing this twice before I started recording. Now, this will have produced, let's keep it at 2, for our example, 2 separate ESX files. So we're gonna deal with every single ESX file separately, and then only at the very last step in the Phantom, we're gonna assign it to the different velocity layers and say, okay, this multisample is for velocity from, I don't know, 40 to 60, and the other one is from 60 to 80, etc. Okay, so we've got the ESX files now, and I can close MainStage. I don't need it any longer, at least for this project here. So the next step is that we take the ESX file and convert it into an SFZ file, Z file, whatever you pronounce that. So I'm using Björn's sample manager, or sample mapper actually. It's this guy here, björnbojar.de. So thank you, Björn, for such a cool software. So what I'm doing is I'm importing the ESX24 instrument. So you see I've got my 4 different EXS files here. So I'm using the 72 and the 46. I've already imported the other two ones to the Fantom, but we're going to do it together. So 72, open, and then immediately save it as SFZ instrument with samples. Okay, I'm going to do that here. So that's the SFZ with samples. And then that's that part done. Now, the next part is done in an app called Polyphone. I'm gonna click Open Soundfont, and I'm using now the 72.sfz file that I just created. Click Open, and now I click here, and I'm gonna export that as an SF2 file, because now this actually combines the samples that were in a separate folder together with the metadata, and then the SF2 file in the last step we can convert into the final SFZ file. Yeah, it's weird, but it seems to work, and I haven't found an easier way. So that's the second to last step now, and that now created this 72.sf2 file that actually includes the samples. Before, we had an SFZ file that was just the metadata and a separate samples file. Okay, so now we've got a SF2 file, and now we can use that SF2 file and drop it into Roland's SFZ sample converter, put it here, and now it's asking me where to put the file, and I just created a new file. And this now is the file that I can actually copy on the USB to be imported on the Roland Fantom. So that's the file now that the Roland sample converter created, and I'm copying this to my USB that I'm importing then for the Fantom. Now, while this is copying, I'm gonna do the same thing again for the fourth and final velocity layer. That was the 48 or something. But I'm gonna do this off screen, and then I'm gonna go to the Fantom and gonna import everything. So stay tuned. So here it's copying the 72 SFC file to the USB stick, and doing the same with the 46.svc file that I just created. And once that's done, I'm gonna unplug, eject, and go to the Fantom. Okay, here at the Fantom, I've got the USB now in the USB memory slot. And now I go to Menu, Utility. Then I go to Import. Then I go to Import Sample. Now wait for the USB stick to load. That's not the fastest USB stick, unfortunately. And I load the SFC file, the 72 one here. Click Select. And I keep everything checked as it is. I click Next. I check that I'm not overwriting anything, but that's fine. I click Execute. I'm sure. And now this will take a while, so I'm going to fast forward this. Okay, once we have that, we go into the sampling page and hit Keyword Sample. And then I go and mark all the 72 files that I just imported, but not more. Let's get rid of this one. And hit Utility here at the top and say Create Multisample. And initially you want to check that Create Tone, so that it creates the first tone. Right now I already had that before, so I'm gonna uncheck that if I can hit it actually. And yeah, we can rename the multisample to make it a little bit clearer, but I keep the velocity here so that I know what's going on. And then I hit Create Multisample. Are you sure? Yes. And that created the multisample. I'm not sure whether I have to hit right now. Yeah, I think so. Okay, cool. And now what I can do, I can edit the tone now. And right now I've got two parsers here, but you initially start with one. And I'm in the Pro zoom level here, so not the zoomed out one, but the zoomed in one. So I've got my multisample. That's the, yeah, it's difficult to see, but it's the, let's start with the 72. No, let's start actually with the loudest one. 125. Okay, so that's partial 1. The next one is 98. And then I need to, let me enable here the third partial and choose 72 here. Okay, so I've got 3 multisamples in that tone here, each of them with a different velocity level. Initially, if you just import one, like I've shown you, then you would just see one here. And then I can go in the menu here, and where is it? Actually, it's here in keyboard. You see the velocity range low and high. So the first one that I had was the multisample (125). So let's say between 98 and 25, let's say from 110 to 127, I want to use this 125 sample here. So let's set the velocity range from 110 to all the way up to 127. Okay, so that means for velocities in that range, this first multisample will be used. And then I set the high velocity for the next multisample to 109. And let's go from, I don't know, whatever the difference is there, let's say 84 or something. Okay, so that means for everything from 110 and up, the first multisample we will use, that's our 125 multisample. For everything between 84 and 109, this multisample will be used, etc. And that's how you create multisamples or use several multisamples with several velocities. You can't really pack everything into one multisample. At least I didn't find a way to do that. You will have one multisample per velocity level, and then you just import several multisamples, like I'm showing here. So in partial 1, I've got multisample 1. In partial 2, I've got multisample 2, and so on. And then you assign the velocity ranges that you want to use there. Okay. So that's a very complicated way of me trying to import something from a VST into my Fantom in multiple velocity layers without really having to edit a lot of metadata later myself. Yeah, hope you found that useful. Again, that's mainly for myself so that I remember this very elaborate process the next time that I need it. Thank you. Bye-bye.